Well, I'm very excited. Uh, Welcome to In the House. And, there's a lame joke I could make. Is there a doctor in the house? Ha ha. But you know what? There is, because Representative Kristen Baker is a doctor, and she's my guest here on In the House. Representative Baker, Dr. Baker, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. It's a delight to be with you and to get a little chance to talk together.
Well, I know it's a real busy time for you, as it is for all of us, but I appreciate you making this time, and I won't delay with just kind of chatting around here. I want to dive right in. You are a doctor, and you are also a member of the North Carolina House. How do you find the time in a day to get all done that you need to get done?
Well, probably the honest answer is I'm sure I don't. But certainly, try and prioritize, try and do, the important things, and then when necessary, doing the urgent things. So, and I think that I never do anything alone, and so have got some great support both at home and at work, and I'm thankful for that.
That's great. Now, I want to just dive right in because there's several things that you have accomplished. You're in your first term, and I think that you're doing very well. I have only heard good things about you and the way you're serving your community and your district. So, what compels you to want to serve?
Well, thank you for those kind words. It really is it's a privilege to serve, and essentially what happened is there seemed to be a need in my area. The representative prior to me was thinking of retiring, and I thought, well, I've got a background in healthcare, and I am a product of the North Carolina public school system.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought, oh, those things could allow me to give back. I've been really fortunate. This state has been an amazing place for me and for my family. And so I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to give back. Now, that being said, nobody saw COVID on the horizon. So the background in healthcare became even more important and started intersecting many areas. And of course, my specialty is in psychiatry, and specifically child psychiatry. So while I thought I could bring some of that to bear, I didn't realize quite, how relevant it would in fact be during this particular time in our history.
That's amazing. I'm sure you get a lot of people tugging at you and wanting to talk to you about various issues, but you served the folks in Cabarrus County. Talk about how you've been able to help them in some specific ways and as you've been serving here the last year and a half.
Sure, absolutely. And I will say, as I mentioned, I came in during COVID, so a very particular time. And so I was on the task force, the COVID health task force. But then the speaker also appointed me to a standing task force that was his task force on community relations, law enforcement, and justice. Right. So that was in actually the fall of 2020. And so I was very fortunate to be on that and got to hear from stakeholders all over the state. But I was particularly fortunate that our Sheriff Van Shaw, right here in Cabarrus County, was on that task force with me. And so much of what I've been able to do, I think, is credit to the amazing both community members and leaders here in Cabarrus County that have empowered me. So one of the things that I sponsored a bill following that task force that was basically to support our law enforcement officers and their mental health. So throughout the entire task force, no matter what particular element was being discussed, whether it was victims or those who were in the system, in the prison system, or our law enforcement, or the community businesses, everybody was talking about mental health. And of course, that's something I was always focused on, but it really brought it to light. And so, as our law enforcement was trying to struggle with all the things we were dealing with in 2020, I realized that we really weren't supporting them in their mental health. And so, in working with them and the Sheriff's Association and the police officers were so helpful. And working with them, I sponsored a bill that basically provides training and education and resources for the mental health of our law enforcement officers. The duty to protect is an incredible burden to bear, and we want to support them in supporting us, right? And so that was one of the great things. And then we went on. I think, as again, a lot of my original bills were related to all the struggles we were having during COVID. And so, of course, as those things were being brought to light and recognizing we had issues in the schools where we don't have enough mental health supports. And so one of my big initiatives was to focus on increasing that. And so we increased the allotment of school psychologists, and in the budget also budgeted for that, so that we got another 115 psychologists across the state, which of course is not enough, but again, it's supporting our schools, and of course some of the school safety that we've done. But anyway, I can go on to a few more things, but again, and so working with, so in terms of our school and school psychologist needs, Amy Louder here in Cabarrus County was wonderful with that. Our school superintendents, our Board of Education, as I came into, ran to serve and then came into serving, I remember saying, I'd like to be a bridge between our county and the state. But gosh, I didn't realize what incredible supports I had locally, to serve that. I can only do as well as I'm equipped to do. And really, had so much support. And another example of that is our county commissioners, who were just amazing. They already had a vision for some of our mental health needs. But then when this crisis arose, we were really fortunate, and I was able to, along with Representative Sasser, who has been a great partner, we were able to get funding, actually $30 million, for a new regional behavioral health center that will be located here in Cabarrus County, but will also, obviously serve the region. So many things that, this horrible crisis brought to light, but that I was fortunate that even in recognizing it, I couldn't do these things on my own. And so many local, both community members, and leaders positioning me so that I could work at the state level and represent these needs and articulate them well and advocate.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. For somebody in their first term, you hit the ground running and have gotten a lot done. So really proud of the work that you're doing. Now, you've triggered a question for me. So
sure.
I'm going to ask you about law enforcement mental health.
Yes.
Here in Raleigh, we had this tremendous, horrific tragedy a few weeks ago where the young man shot several people and his brother. And, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, that's not supposed to happen here. And there was just a flood. You won't believe, I don't live near that area, but I was able to see just this tremendous flood, of law enforcement from all agencies, SBI and the Highway Patrol and the county and the city and everybody. When an officer is shot, they really respond. So here's my question. Something terrible like that happens in Raleigh. Does a policeman or whatever kind of law enforcement officer in Cabarrus County or Mitchell County or Dare County, does that affect them? Is that in the back of their mind as something more to worry about?
Absolutely. And, just such a tragedy in the Raleigh area. But it does, and they're really, partners in this. And several incidents have happened across the state, sadly, since I've been serving, and it's very real when I see it on the, several of the sheriffs and other law enforcement officers, have come into the chamber floor, and we're all flooded with this, and they rally around, right? Because there's a particular bond. And certainly something like this, you may be aware, happened so sadly for us in Concord and Cabarrus County. December 16th of 2020,
Yeah.
we had a very young officer, Jason Shuping.
Yes.
He was age 25, shot and killed in the line of duty, just horrible. And I can't tell you how, other law enforcement rallied around, and it was just a very moving experience for our community. Tragic, but also, we recognized how we draw on one another. And so I was really fortunate. We all stepped up together, and were able to actually erect a memorial, and named the bridge for Jason Shuping.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I hope it was such a gift to his parents,
Yeah.
Dane and Lynn, and to his widow, Haley, knowing what he meant. But it also represents, I hope, to law enforcement what they mean to us, and then represents to the community that, we value our officers, we value community safety, and things like this will go highly recognized in our community. And so once again, just a drawing together that makes you so proud. And unfortunately, sometimes these tragedies do bring out the best in us, as much as we would wish that doesn't happen. So I certainly hope that's what the experience has been, with the ramifications in Raleigh as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that people they go across that bridge and they say a prayer. You know what I mean? It's certainly something that no doubt is a benefit to the family and the community. So your experience then in psychiatry is going a long way to making you an effective representative for Cabarrus County.
Well, I certainly hope so. That is certainly my intent. And, I think along those lines, some people might recognize that substance abuse is another big part of psychiatry and that practice and study. And certainly that's been, again, we've had raised awareness with the opioid crisis. And so it's been really a privilege to be able to work on that. And, so in addition to being able to direct some of the opioid abatement funds, I've been really fortunate that we were able to designate in the budget $1.5 million toward the SUN project, which is a substance use network. But it really, what the intent of it is to treat pregnant mothers who have substance abuse issues, because there's a lot, right? It's a tricky issue to try and protect the pregnancy and at the same time get the mother the treatment she needs. And I just can't tell you how people, this is a collaborative venture with our child partnership, with Cabarrus Health Alliance, with so many of our community members and organizations. And so that's something that I hope will just continue to grow, and that we'll be able to, and again, sort of we're treating two people, right? The mother and the baby.
Yeah.
And providing effective substance use treatment, because of course that's often a concern. Well, where do people go for treatment? And we want to start filling that gap. And then a bill that I sponsored that thankfully ended up in the budget was a new form of treatment, which is called prescription digital therapeutics. And basically, when a doctor or a provider is treating a patient, they approach them and you have appointments, right? But what about those off times? What about the times when people are really at risk and there's nobody immediately available? And so this is basically a digital partner in this, and it's already proven the studies proved extremely effective. And so we're excited to offer that here in our state and see if we can make some inroads, because we know what a difficult struggle this is for people with these illnesses.
Is that like telehealth? Is that what you're?
Yes, it is somewhat like telehealth in that that it's it uses technology. It's an app, yes, but it's done asynchronously. So you can, even if your therapist is not available or your physician's not available, you can do sort of your homework or some of the things you've talked about. And what that also allows is it allows them, when you do see your provider in person, then you can go back and you've got more data to bring to that setting, which is really powerful. It's a powerful tool.
Now, Representative Baker, I went to school in South Carolina, so you can't be saying things like asynchronously. That's a little over my head.
Well, all these young people talk about asynchrony today and teaching that way. So trying to, stay up with the lingo.
So,
and I know we've talked a lot about health, but I do want to say that, some of the other major issues going on in my county, have been the growth of businesses, and which is wonderful. And our EDC and Paige Castrodale deserve so much credit for that. But of course, with growth comes challenges. And so, so we're really, that was some of what we worked on, and what has been more of a learning curve for me than certainly the health issues, always have areas in which I can learn, but the, water and sewer needs and capital needs, as we've tried to respond to this growth and position ourselves to be able to, make sure we have the workforce for it and that we have the housing for it. And of course, Rarian Community College is an amazing partner. We have the North Carolina Research Center in Kannapolis. And so again, I feel that I have an embarrassment of riches in Cabarrus County upon which to draw as we, confront these challenges or explore opportunities, which our growth has just been, amazing opportunities that so many people would not have seen coming, several years back, myself included.
I think that's a real strength in what you bring to the table, and that is, I don't know if you call it humility or just understanding, when a person needs to reach out and get help. I can imagine if I were to get elected tonight and tomorrow I walked in and somebody said, okay, now you've got to talk about mental health and school safety and water and sewer and tax reform, I'd be going, well, help. And so instead of trying to fake it, you're willing to say, hey guys, I need help. And I think that's very admirable, Representative Baker.
Well, thank you for that. And you're right. None of us can be experts in everything. And the people that are the experts are the ones that are living it. And in that, I would add my constituents, right? These are the people who reach out and say, here's the problem I've had, things that I might not even know about. And I think that's the part that, as a psychiatrist, while I might not know the issues my constituents are bringing, the ability to help an individual person, right? So there's systems issues we have to deal with for these big problems, but there are individual issues that happen where people get caught, and they don't know what state agency to reach out to, or to whom they should reach. Maybe it's not a state agency. And that has been so gratifying. And of course, I have so much help in that. And then the ability, sometimes the issues, sometimes they're very local, and I've been able to, kind of connect people. Like a man, every time it rained, his backyard would flood, like literally flood. And he was kind of in the crossroads between some development that had happened and, who owns this problem, right? So so sometimes it's sort of like, kind of detective work, right? You drill down and you can find an answer. Or sometimes people have issues and they turn out to be federal issues. And, we've been so fortunate. Richard Hudson's office has been a great office to turn to help us with that. So, that part is so gratifying. And I depend on people, I say so often, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, I so appreciate people bringing that to my awareness, and then, I do the best I can, and I find out, when I can't solve it, somebody out there can, and we do our best to connect people.
Well, it's good to hear you say that it's gratifying to help people, because you could get caught up in, well, I don't have time to help you with your Employment Security Commission problem, or your DMV problem, or your backyard flooding problem. You know, I'm involved in legislation that is going to affect people statewide. But to hear, like I said, there's just an air of humility that I think is great. That you're saying, you know, it's just as important to me to help somebody whose backyard is flooding as it is to write a piece of legislation that might have a statewide impact. So I think that's awesome.
Well, thank you for that. And I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about people, right? And, you know, we have all these problems and we have people taking different angles on them. But, you know, at the end of the day, problems are solved by people and building those relationships. And, you know, there's a lot of focus these days, I feel like, on differences, right? There's just a lot of focus on that.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, I feel strongly that we need to start, and I feel this as a child psychiatrist, and also I continue to feel this in the work I do here at the legislature, and that is that, you know, we need to learn to find what we have in common and start with that, because we have so much in common, right? We as human beings, as people trying to do our best in this world, have so much in common. And so I just really encourage people, let's first look for the commonalities. Yeah. Look for what you see in the other person that you can relate to. And so then together, you know, you identify that what you both know to be true, right? We both bond around this. We know this to be true. And then we've developed the trust to say, okay, what is it I don't know? What do I not understand? Bring in your differences to help me grow, to help me see, oh, okay, this is what I don't understand. Let's see what, now that I understand that, what can we do together to make that issue better? And, you know, it's something, honestly, age-wise, I grew up with that, but I don't see that as much now in our current world. And I hope, you know, I hope I can try and create that and create opportunities for that sort of dialogue.
Well, I think if anybody can, it would be you. You're doing a tremendous job. I know one thing we have in common, and our time is running out, and I swore to you that I'd get you out in around 20 minutes. So, but one thing we do have in common is inflation is out of control. We're tired of paying high gas prices, but that's a conversation for another day. Representative Dr. Kristen Baker, you were absolutely a tremendous guest, and I mean this because from where I sit, I see all of y'all, and I see the work that you're doing, and you are doing a great job. You are serving your district, your community, your constituents, and your state in an outstanding manner. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mark. And I would be remiss not to say we couldn't do it without you, right? You are our key for communication. You help us know what's going on, and you help us get the message out, you know, in terms of what we're trying to do. And I think that's just critical. It's been such an asset to me personally, and I know it has been to my constituents and ability to reach out in my newsletter and understand what's going on. So thank you, and thank you for your time in hosting me and discussing these really important issues.
Well, it was a pleasure. When the session starts, I'm going to have you on again. We'll talk about bills that you are sponsoring at that time. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And thank you for being our guest here on In the House.
Thank you so much, Mark.